Good morning to you. It is Friday, August 2nd, and this is Fox and Friends First. Thank you so much for joining us. You made it through the weekend. Topping our
delegation and technical support team being finalized.
I've wanted to pull them out, and I have pulled a lot out. We were at 16,000. We're down to about 9,000, which a lot of people don't know. We should not have been there 19 years. When you're 19 years, you're really becoming like a police force. We want to get out. We want to get out of a lot of areas that we're in. We shouldn't be there.
And when it comes to troops, the State Department expressing caution, writing the presence of U.S. forces has long been conditions-based. Adjustments over the years have been conditions-based, and any future reductions or withdrawal of forces will also be conditions-based. And Senator Lindsey Graham tweeting skepticism, saying, very interested to see what kind of deal is being made with the Taliban in Afghanistan. One thing I know for certain, al-Qaeda and ISIS will never be at the negotiating table. And Heather, the U.S. peace envoy that's in charge of this, adding that he's heading to Qatar next for the next stage of these talks. There's already been 8 rounds of these talks. And he says if the Taliban do their part and we do our job, we'll have an agreement.
Yeah, 19 years is a very long time. Thank you so much, Aisha. We appreciate it.
Sure.
Well, how about this? Did you see President Trump ramping up his attacks on progressive Democrats last night at a rally in Cincinnati, commending his strong economy, also taking some shots at his opponents and their weak performance? Listen.
I was watching the so-called debate last night, and the Democrats spent more time attacking Barack Obama than they did attacking me. But the greatest betrayal committed by the Democrats is their support for open borders. A vote for any Democrat in 2020 is a vote for the rise of radical socialism. We will never stop fighting for the values that bind us together as one America. Our nation is stronger today than ever before. Our spirit is strong, our stride is back, and our stand is clear. We are finally putting America first. It's about time.
Another huge crowd for the president, thousands cheering him on as he promised crackdowns on illegal immigrants, also hope for blue-collar workers. Doug Luzader joins us now live from D.C. with some of the highlights from last night. Good morning, Doug.
Heather, good morning. This was a classic Trump rally, ran about 90 minutes or so. It was the first big event we've seen since Robert Mueller testified on Capitol Hill. And the president, of course, also had that big Detroit Democratic debate to talk about. He kind of lumped those Democratic candidates all in together.
No matter what label they use, a vote for any Democrat in 2020 is a vote for the rise of radical socialism and the destruction of our great, our beautiful, our wonderful American dream. We're not going to let our country ever go down the route of socialism.
Now, we did not hear the controversial send her back chants last night, but the president did allude to the 4 Democratic congresswomen known as the Squad. He did hit on the topic that so many Republicans really urge him to talk about in the run-up to 2020, and that is the economy.
Our nation is stronger today than ever before. We have the #1 economy on earth. Our spirit is strong, our stride is back, and our stand is clear. We are finally putting America first. It's about time.
Now, the rally was disrupted by protesters at one point. The president, Heather, told the Cincinnati crowd that that's what happens when you have a Democratic mayor.
Yeah, it was quite something again last night, and we'll talk much more about what he had to say about the economy coming up. Thank you so much, Doug.
Thanks.
Appreciate that. Well, here's an update to a horrible story we've been following for you. The father who left his twins to die in an overheated car will not be prosecuted, at least not for now. The district attorney putting Juan Rodriguez's case on hold as a criminal investigation plays out into all this. Now, the Iraq war vet tells police that he thought he brought his one-year-old twins to daycare before he began his shift at the VA Medical Center in New York. He's pleaded not guilty to manslaughter and child endangerment charges. His lawyer says he's already facing a life sentence of torment and grief. Well, the granddaughter of Robert F. Kennedy is found dead on the famous Hyannisport compound overnight. The breaking news, the family breaking their silence on it as they mourn Saoirse Kennedy Hill. In a statement, they say, "Our hearts are shattered by the loss of our beloved Saoirse. Her life was filled with hope, promise, and love. She cared deeply about friends and family, especially her grandmother, Ethel, who said the world is a little less beautiful today." Hill is the niece, by the way, of Fox News correspondent Doug Kennedy. She was 22 years old, so young. Well, new overnight, an update on James Comey. James Comey apparently firing back at Congressman Mark Meadows and all this after being criticized for not addressing the DOJ's decision not to prosecute him. Now, Comey slamming Meadows on Twitter, saying that he's waiting for, quote, facts before I talk about them. Well, just hours after Meadows called him out for no tweets or softball interviews, adding the truth is coming and the verdict won't be pretty. Fox News contributor Sarah Carter blasting the Inspector General's decision.
Americans will not accept a two-tier justice system. They can't just watch, Comey walk away and not have to pay any price for this unless there's something else happening. And I've been hearing that John Durham is working diligently.
Well, according to the Washington Post, the full report from the Inspector General is expected in at least a month. Lots of folks have been waiting for that for a while. Well, right now to a Fox Business alert for you, though. The jobs report for July, that's expected to come out in just a few hours, and it's expected to be good news for the economy. Bloomberg predicting 165,000 jobs added. That's down from June when 224,000 jobs were created. Unemployment, though, is expected to drop back down to 3.6%, and that matches the number from April and May of this year, which was the lowest rate in 50 years. So that's a good thing. Well, the time now is about, 10 minutes after the top of the hour. Coming up, Hillary Clinton. She said that she would put coal miners out of work, and now Democrats are pushing a Green New Deal, while the president does this.
We're putting our coal miners back to work and our steel workers back to work.
Our next guest is a financial analyst and says that history is about to repeat itself. And wondering what happened to your Amazon package? A major theft ring just busted, and you'll never believe who the ringleaders are.
The previous administration, they liked windmills. They make noise, they're intermittent, they kill your birds. Solar is peanuts by comparison to what you need. We've ended the war on American energy, and we're putting our coal miners back to work and our steel workers back to work.
The president in the Rust Belt promising to end the war on coal and steel just 24 hours, though, after 2020 Democrats doubled down on the Green New Deal. But are voters buying their progressive message? Which message are they listening to? Here to weigh in, CPA and financial analyst Dan Geltrude. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Heather.
So a lot about jobs last night, as we expected, in the Rust Belt.
Yep, that's absolutely key for Trump's reelection. He's got to win the Rust Belt, so he's going to appeal to that group of people with the message of jobs, jobs, jobs.
Yeah, it's interesting because it did appear that some of the Democrats had not learned their lesson from what happened with Hillary Clinton, specifically when it comes to coal jobs. And we can bring up the amount of coal jobs, new ones, that have been added during the Trump administration. That's 2,200 coal jobs under President Trump. And then also, let's just bring up the Ohio manufacturing under Trump as well. The Trump administration, over 19,000 manufacturing jobs created as well.
Yeah, the prior administration was basically saying that manufacturing was going to never come back to the United States. And of course, that's not true. And President Trump never believed that. And he pushed from the beginning that manufacturing can be revitalized in the United States. And I think from the last election with Hillary Clinton, she may very well have lost that election with one comment, which related to she is going to put coal workers out of work. That did not go well in the Rust Belt, and she needed the Rust Belt, and she didn't get it.
So do you think that will work against Democrats this time around as well?
Yeah, I think history is going to repeat itself. I think President Trump's message is quite strong for the voters in the Rust Belt as it pertains to coal energy, fossil fuel, steel.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about this next topic, though, because going back to the Democratic debate and talking about some of these progressive ideas, on many different levels, it seemed like we'll give you anything you want for free. We're not going to talk about how to pay for it. And one thing in particular that stood out to me is Andrew Yang, who talked about giving Americans, $1,000 a month. How in the world would that be possible?
Well, this one is the one that takes the cake in terms of the ultimate pandering to voters. We're going to give every American citizen over the age of 18 $1,000 per month for free, quote unquote.
Right.
And he's calling it the freedom dividend, but basically.
Yeah, wait till you start that, since you put free in quotes. Let's bring this up as you're talking about it, because it's not really free. Go ahead.
No, it's not free. And listen, that first item there, that 10% value-added tax, let me tell you what that is. That is a national sales tax, which means prices of products are going to go up 10% under this plan. He's going to put a tax on financial transactions. He's going to tax capital gains as if they were ordinary income, remove the cap, which is approximately $132,000 on Social Security, and then also add a carbon tax. But the numbers aren't going to add up, Heather. No. They're not going to add up.
That's crazy. 236 million people, U.S. citizens here, so they would get, what, $12,000 per year, a gross cost of $2.8 trillion.
That's the gross. And then the Tax Foundation did the calculation and said, okay, if we're going to add these taxes, which we just had on the screen, what's the net effect? $1.5 trillion in the red. That's on top of the deficit that we're running each year of about $1 trillion. So now we're up to $2.5 trillion per year.
Yeah. So if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So we got to talk about how to pay for these things. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Always great to have you with us. Well, still to come, look who is on deck. Coming up, Ilhan Omar and Nancy Pelosi taunting President Trump with these pictures of them in Africa. But some people aren't laughing. And he hit the streets in 100-degree heat. This is a great story. To not beg for money, but instead to beg for a job. So did it pay off? Carly Shimkus is up to have an answer for us. Good morning. Welcome back. You're watching Fox and Friends. First, another update to a story that we've been following for you. Police arrest a man in the latest water attack on the NYPD. His name is Steve LaRosa, and he's now facing charges for spraying a water bottle on traffic officers. The NYPD commissioner, in the meantime, saying that this, quote, tough guy behavior will never be tolerated.
This is something that needs to be addressed. And as I said in there, cops aren't victims. We're not victims. We're here to help victims. We're here to prevent people from becoming victims. That's why we're the police.
Well, several videos surfaced last week of people attacking cops with water. 2 state lawmakers now trying to make those attacks felony crimes. And there's a Trump supporter who wants the NYPD to take similar action after he claims that he was assaulted for wearing this hat, for a Make America Great Again hat. Listen.
After I got bombarded, they said, F Trump, F this, F you. And it's kind of ridiculous to get beat up like this for wearing a hat.
Man, the side of his face. Well, the man claims that a group of teenagers attacked him after he bought the hat at Trump Tower. He says one of them slammed his face into scaffolding, fracturing his cheekbone, actually. The man now demanding police make an arrest. NYPD says he didn't mention the hat in his report. What about this? Look at this picture. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar going viral for her trip to Africa with Nancy Pelosi. Carly Shimkus with Fox News Headlines 24/7 Sirius XM 115 is here with the online reaction. So a couple photos posted online.
Yeah, so it looks like Congresswoman Ilhan Omar and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi are on good terms because they are on a trip to Ghana together, along with other members of the Congressional Black Caucus to honor and observe the 400th anniversary of slaves arriving to America. But some people are finding fault in this trip, and here's why. Cliff on Twitter says, how does this visit help their voter constituents? Parker tweets, what a joke. Why aren't they visiting the homeless American citizens in America? Are they afraid of what they will find and need to fix? And another Twitter user says, yes, enjoy your taxpayer-paid visit. My gosh, we have millions of things that money could go to here, but by all means, enjoy your vacation. So some angry tweets there. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle do go overseas from time to time. I think the big focus of the story is the fact that they are smiling and laughing in pictures together.
Right. At least in pictures they are.
Yeah, because of, all
previous comments made and allegations. You're racist. No, you're racist. That type of thing. Let's talk about a good story because it is Friday. This unemployed dad, he took to the streets to not beg for money, but instead beg for a job. Listen to him.
My phone just started going crazy. Offers from multiple different people to come in and talk to him, to just come in and work. I went on Saturday and worked to prove myself, and they love me. I was offered a position.
We should say he was actually passing in his resume. It was 110-degree heat.
This is such a feel-good story.
Yeah.
So that's Patrick Hoagland. He decided to take the unconventional approach after he got laid off in June, then wasn't having any luck online. He got his big break when a woman named Melissa passed him on the street, saw what he was doing, and then posted his resume on Twitter along with this message saying, I love that he was not asking for a handout, just for people to consider him for a job. So hundreds of job offers started rolling in, and he finally landed his perfect position at a concrete grinding company. Annette on Instagram says, love the do whatever it takes attitude. Congratulations and best of luck to you, young man. And then another Instagram user says, this is the type of Americans we need, and not the ones who expect our country to support them. Well, kudos to Patrick. And this is one of those examples of a great reason to use social media.
Absolutely. And
propping people up and tearing people down.
A great example for his kids as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Speaking of social media, did you know social media addiction, it is real. Listen.
Birthday! It's you. Your cell phone bill is what's up. All this texting. OMG, INBD. It is a big deal.
Well, now one senator is taking some action to end it, but how? We're breaking down his plan coming up. You want to hear it. And don't miss Justin Moore live on the Fox Square all morning long for the All-American Summer Concert Series. Stay with us. Back half past the top of the hour. You're watching Fox and Friends First. A look at our top headlines for you this morning. Starting with the Fox News alert. North Korea escalates nuclear tensions, launching a third missile test in just 8 days. The rogue regime appearing to pressure the U.S. and South Korea ahead of joint military exercises. Right now, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is at a security conference in Thailand. He says that he was ready for a meeting with North Korea, but it is now unlikely. Massive protests erupt over his leaked emails belittling women, gay people, and Hurricane Maria victims. The island's Secretary of State, Pedro Pierluisi, would replace Rossello, but he might not have enough votes for confirmation. President Trump slamming his Democratic rivals at a packed rally in Cincinnati. The president using this week's debates to launch some fresh criticism against those Democratic candidates. Fox and Friends Weekend co-host Pete Hegseth live outside U.S. Bank Arena with some reaction from the voters in the Queen City. Good morning, Pete.
Hey, good morning, Heather. It's great to be here in Cincinnati, and it was a heck of a rally last night. We're in the shadow of the Great American Ballpark where the Cincinnati Reds play. The line before the event was wrapped around that stadium into U.S. Bank Arena, and the crowd was enthusiastic. In that sense, it was a typical President Trump rally. However, it came after those, as you mentioned, after the two Democrat debates, also in the shadow of the feud the president has had with Elijah Cummings in Baltimore, as well as the feud with the so-called squad and their views on a number of issues. So the press was primed to hear what the president had to say. He pretty much stuck to the script. We had a chance to talk to folks who were in the rally. We asked them what's most important to them. I asked them about the economy, those bread and butter issues that are going to matter in 2020. Here's what some of the folks who were in the stands said to us last night.
Just like every one of his rallies, he had a personal message for Ohio. Got everybody going. It was great.
A lot of energy. It's like a high school pep rally. It's really great.
I think jobs, that's the most important thing. Record unemployment for minorities. I think that just speaks volumes about it.
I think economy is pretty good. A lot of jobs. I think it's very encouraging, for Americans.
Right now, I'm kind of the immigration problem because it does cost the country a lot of money.
To not just the overall job, in addition to not just the overall jobs numbers, Heather, people talked specifically about Ohio, a state President Trump won by 9 points in 2016. So with the economy rising in this state, that's a good sign for the president. But as I mentioned earlier, you had those Democrat debates, 2 nights, 10 candidates. We asked folks coming out of the event after they heard from President Trump, what do you think of the Democrat message? Here's what they had to say.
No, I don't think so. Not from the ones that I've seen prior to before the debate. I don't think there's anyone that's going to. I think Donald Trump's going to win by a landslide.
Trump 2020. If they loved their own party, they would have just gotten a couple of people and rallied behind them. But the fact that they still have over 20 people vying for the candidacy, it's just ridiculous.
Just look at what Trump has done, and it's a no-brainer.
So, Heather, a lot of confidence from the crowd, enthusiastic coming out, wondering, almost wanting the matchup between President Trump's record and some of the more extreme left-wing policies emanating from these debates. So if you're an outside observer, there's no candidate right now on the Democrat side commanding the kind of lines and enthusiasm that the president is, and certainly his team feels like that's a good thing for them heading into this campaign season.
Yeah, and expected to be some good news with the jobs report coming out a little bit later today. We were talking about that earlier. What about those protesters, though? I wanted to ask you about that because it seemed to take a long time to get them out of there. The president, very patient, though, just kind of walking back and forth across the stage as they took care of that.
I think, to be honest, it's been a while since that level of protest has been seen at Trump rallies. So in a sense, maybe the battle rhythm had to be re-exercised to deal with that in a timely manner. But the crowd seemed to, there was some tussling, but ultimately I think the crowd was just as aware that the president was, that this was a moment where the national media was looking for an incident. They were looking for a chant. They were looking for something to continue the so-called racist narrative. So I think all around, there were more careful gloves going on in that arena last night.
Yeah, the president even saying, don't want to get too controversial, don't want to be controversial. All right, thank you so much, Pete. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. You got it.
Well, some other stories are following briefly. A Navy fighter pilot is dead after his jet crashed during a routine training exercise. The Navy confirms the pilot was flying an F-18 similar to this one that you can see there. This was in Death Valley, California. 7 people on the ground were injured. The area known as a good place to watch military aircraft. The identity of that pilot has still not been released, but the Navy confirms that they took off from Naval Station Lemoore. In the meantime, the Navy's top admiral drops all charges against Eddie Gallagher's platoon leader. Now, Lieutenant Jacob Portier was set to face trial, charged with covering up Gallagher's war crimes. This after Gallagher, a decorated Navy SEAL, was acquitted of murdering an ISIS prisoner back in 2017. The Navy saying the decision came from Chief Naval Operation Admiral John Richardson, who ordered a full review of JAGCOR. The Navy adding in part, Admiral John Richardson took this action in the best interest of justice and the Navy. President Trump just ordered the Navy, by the way, to rescind all medals that were awarded to Gallagher's prosecutors as well. We mentioned this to you. The youngest senator in Congress. He's known for taking on big tech and tackling social media addiction head on. Listen.
My biggest critique of big tech is, what innovation have they really given us? 15, 20 years, the people who say they're the brightest minds of the country have given this country? What are their great innovations? Autoplay, Snapstreak. We need the tech sector to step up.
Well, Senator Josh Hawley from Missouri is proposing a bill to regulate those techniques that social media platforms use to keep you scrolling over and over. Here with more is Kirk Knudsen, the cyber guy. Thank you so much for coming
Heather,
in.
good morning. You know, at 39 years old, Senator Josh Hawley from Missouri is on it. He is really understanding the threat from Silicon Valley and what really social media companies have crept into our lives and created.
But they don't try to get you addicted to it. No,
of course not. Of course not. So, you know, he's calling them out, and finally, somebody is calling out social media companies for having developed essentially tricks that psychologically get us all sucked in to the game of engagement. Their goal is to get you and me and everybody else to be engaged and paying attention and interacting as much as possible.
Yeah, and it seems to be working because we can pull this up for everyone. 73% of adults, that's just adults, are online almost constantly or several times a day.
You know what? This figure should not surprise anybody.
No.
And if you look at all the selfies that we're taking, I have an ongoing joke, which is that if, you take another selfie, it's like, how many selfies can the cloud hold? As a joke, one day they're all going to rain down on us.
Yeah.
And I think what the senator's saying right now is, hey, let's draw some limits.
Let's bring up some details as you break down the bill for us. How, in fact, they would do this.
First of all, his ideas are not outrageous. They're very reasonable. And what he's saying is, he's asking social media companies that they should ban the addictive features, and that means have stopping points along the way while you're browsing or while you're engaged on a platform, whether you're on your smartphone or on your computer or laptop, whatever. It should automatically create stop points and not just have us constantly engaged where there's no natural psychological way to stop us.
Yeah. But here's the question, though. Do we need more government regulation to do what we should be doing anyway, which is get off social media, interact with people more in person?
Ironically, we're working on a story about how there's a trend of people wanting to get away from engagement with electronics and social media. I got to say, there's nobody disciplined to do it, though. There's not that level of awareness, and these social media companies are not looking out for our health.
Of course not.
So, yeah, I think we do need this kind of regulation. What he's talking about is very minor. He's just saying, dial it down, Silicon Valley. Dial it down and give Americans back their brain just a little bit, right? So he's not asking for outrageous reaches inside of this bill. I'm proud that we have a senator like this who's looking out for our interests. And we have not seen this level of intelligent, proactive approach to Silicon Valley and social media ever.
Well, Kurt, you are fired up about it.
Bravo,
appreciate it.
Senator Hawley.
Glad you could come in and talk about it. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Have a good weekend. Yeah. Well, are you missing an Amazon package, Kurt? Are you missing anything? Anybody at home? Well, a multi-million-dollar ring theft, or a theft ring, I should say, that could explain exactly where that package is. And as if back-to-school stuff in schools isn't bad enough, Starbucks already out with a fall favorite. Yep, pumpkin spice. Is it too soon, though? We report to you, just like Kurt says, yes.